Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and we are live. We go live every single Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific. Appreciate all y'all tuning in to the Raiders Report, and I'm telling you this right now, we got a lot to talk about today. If you're looking for the latest news and rumors around the silver and black, you are in the right place. So the first show that I got coming up here on today's live, we're going to talk about Ashton Jeanty. We're going to talk about a big change that he's going to be making. But I also want to take a dive into the Chirstian Wilkins injury news because there is a lot of conflicting reports out there. And I'm going to be honest, it took a lot for me today to bite my tongue and not say certain things on social media at Mitchell Renz 365. But I saw a lot of people kind of throwing out this idea that Wilkins has got this foot injury. And I know that there's been reports, and I don't want to give away what my show is today. But I'm going to be real. I think that there is a lot of people that don't know how to read and are reporting the wrong things out there. I'll show you what I'm talking about here in a little bit. But, let's be honest. So there was a report that Chirstian Wilkins has been dealing with a foot injury. He had a Lisfranc surgery last season. It's why he missed the majority of last season. So I want you to scale this from 1 to 10. 1 being you're not worried at all. 10, you're freaking flipping out, man. And I'm going to give some shout-outs here on today's show, and I will end up breaking down the answer for me personally, because again, I don't want to give away one of the biggest parts of my show today, but my number one objective from today's live show is that anybody out there that is, I would say, a 7 or above on the Wilkins foot injury, I'm going to try to calm you down a little bit. Yeah. Rebel, what's going on, dude? Steven Gutierrez is going to go with a 10.
We have to remember also, it's not even the summertime. We're still in springtime.
Correct.
We still have months before even practice, real practices begin.
Yeah.
So I know everybody wants to be concerned or, oh my God, what's going on?
Yep.
But I don't know. I also think it's very early on to have anything more than a 5 right now, for me, feels a little weird. Just for me personally, I feel like we're so far away from actual football that if you're over a 5 concerned with it, you're thinking it's a career-ending.
I would say 5 or above. You're guessing that he's going to have another surgery this offseason.
Yeah,
and my objective today is to, again, if we get more information or new information out on the Wilkins injury, I'll do my best to cover it and keep you guys up to date on everything that there is out there. But I am seeing a lot of 7s and above. I see one in there from Keith. Ed Robbins says 1. I mean, I am more concerned than a 1. I just don't think that I'm quite at a number 5. Steven Cruz is going to go 5. Seth says 10. 10 tells me, Seth, that you think he's going to have surgery, and it's a lock that he's going to have surgery. Raider Prime says 3. I'm vibing. Snake 12 is going to go with a 7. Emmanuel Sanchez says 7. I'm not also saying that people are right or wrong. You're obviously free to feel any way that you want about any Raiders player in an injury, and especially with a big-name player like Chirstian Wilkins, that's the extra concern because this is somebody that, quite frankly, I'm counting on to be the second most valuable player on our defense this season. Max Crosby's number 1. Chirstian Wilkins is number 2. And I know that there's a lot of other good players on this defense, no doubt about it. But the second most important player on that defense this season, his name is Chirstian Wilkins, and I'm going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into the injury news around him a little bit later on today's show, probably in about 15 to 20 minutes from now. Before we get into the first show today, though, if you guys want to get your questions or comments on today's live stream, we do already have 365 people on today's show. Huge shout out to all of y'all. You can use hashtag Raiders, or you can super chat to skip the line and get up here on screen. So to Tony, to Seth, to Mungo, to Rhino Jimenez, to Bob Bear, Raider 58. I'm just saying, if you want to get on screen, hashtag Raiders, give me your question, or you can super chat to skip the line. Let's go to another part of today's live program, which we are going to talk about the Raiders news, the Raiders rumors. I did see an article linking Keenan Allen to the Las Vegas Raiders, which made me think, okay, could the Raiders do this? So I'm going to break down why I think that the Raiders could sign him, why the Raiders won't sign him. And then I'll also talk about a certain player that is a rookie that I do think really could impact whether or not the Raiders actually proceed with Keenan Allen or not. So my question to everybody that's tuned in right now, and this was, I would say, one of the top players that we talked about in the month of March, one of the top players that we talked about, in the month of April, and we discussed a lot about the Raiders going out and adding a receiver this offseason, somebody to pair with Geno Smith. And we know how important relationships are to this regime, and you can't deny that Keenan Allen's got a lot of relationships with this organization. So give me a sign, give me a pass. Should the Raiders go out and sign free agent wide receiver Keenan Allen? What would you say to that? Because the last time that we talked about it, Spotrac was throwing out numbers like market value at $11.1 million. The Raiders went out, they drafted Jack Bech, Dante Thornton Jr., Tommy Millott. And, there was some speculation. Maybe we go out and get a Tyler Lockett. There was some speculation on what this Raiders wide receiver room is going to look like. But if you can make a decision right now, you're sitting next to Spytek, you're sitting next to Pete Carroll, are you going to pass or are you going to go out and sign him? Ed Robbins, Big Luck, Devil J, Mike Washburn, William Venroy, all spamming P for pass. Steven Stockton's going to go with a sign. Gutierrez says pass, he's always injured. He's missed 11 games the past 3 seasons. Malachi B says sign. Raymond's going to go with a sign. Breakfast is going to go with a sign. What up, Crash Dog? It's good to have you here, my man. Steve Cruz says sign. Truman Ewing says pass. So I can see, obviously, already early on that this is a debate that's going to happen. The second segment that I have here today, which probably in about an hour from now, I'll tell you what I would do with Keenan Allen. Huge shout out to my man, Revel Montana.
What you would do with him?
Hey, we won a Knicks win. Go New York, go New York, go. I'll tell you this, one of the best songs that I think that you actually sing is this one. Like when you go over on Knicks and you hype up that crowd.
And the thing is like we took that from a piece of, there's like an old Knicks song that they would play at the Garden. And
you just made it better.
Dude.
I mean, honestly, like the song that Smitty would sing on Warriors, like, oh, I love the Warrior. I don't know if that's a real song. That shit slaps.
Dude.
Like when I would tune into those watch parties, I was absolutely
It's kind of electric until you're the opposing team.
True.
And you're down by 10 and you tune in and he's just singing that for like 5 straight minutes and you're just like, I want to rip my eardrums out.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of actually the NBA, what do you think is the best series? Do you think it's the Eastern Conference or do you think it's the Western Conference? Which one is the better series? What would you guys say? Eastern Conference or Western Conference finals? Which one's the better series? If you think it's Knicks-Pacers, just give me a
lot of blue.
East type E.
Yeah.
If you think it's the West, type W for West.
A lot of blue on screen. I didn't realize.
Sir,
just
whole lot of blue.
All blue.
If it was green, I might die. Ed Robbins says West. Chance-tastic just said NHL. Wait, I mean, I am looking forward to the NHL playoffs. I mean, NBA to me just matters more. But the fact that the Dallas Stars are still in it, that makes the city really fun.
Talk about a hype song. I know you've been to a Stars game. We went to one together, and I know you've been to a couple. The Dallas Stars. That
Love
beat.
it.
The Pantera rock song.
I mean, Dallas. If you're ever in Dallas, and you could tell me, should you go to a Rangers, a Cowboys,
I saw
Stars,
Tex kind of nodding for
or
a second.
a Mavs game? It's Dallas Stars, and it's not close.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Again, now that's also weighing in how much money it costs to go, but a Dallas Stars hockey game is way better to go to. I'm telling you that right now.
Oh, dude,
Rich Kramer says the East.
You might catch a fight on or off the court.
Yeah, the fact that we were talking about that Stars fight video from earlier on today was pretty wild.
Dude, I can't wait to see.
What up, Nada?
Apparently, it's going to be in a
documentary.
Dude, can't wait to see it.
If it pops up a documentary and you're
it's
the
just
one
my
featured,
face.
I'm going to shit bricks. I'm going to shit a brick. You know what? final segment coming up here on today's show is around John Spytek. And
watch, they put it up there and they like dog me. They're like, guys like this who share videos are the worst human beings on earth.
He could have done something. He was standing right there when he was filming it.
Oh, look at how bad this guy is.
Yeah.
Ban him.
That'd actually be hilarious.
Dude.
That would be hilarious.
Then I come out. Not even about.
Yeah, it's probably, but you check this box. Anyway, coming up also here on today's show, we're going to look at what John Spytek had to say. He did a recent interview with Ari Meirov and just talked about the overall outlook for the Raiders, you know, why they drafted Jeanty. There was a little bit of conversation on why they traded for Geno Smith. That will be the final segment on today's show. Let's go to Tony. What up, Tony? What's the status on Jakobi Meyers and Colton Miller extensions? Shout out to the Raiders Report fam. I think that we should probably get a little bit of an update tomorrow on Jakobi and Colton, only because the first day of OTAs on the 19th, was not open to media. So nobody from the media has any information whatsoever, which is why, again, we're going to talk about the Wilkins injury here a little bit, but no information yet. We should get more information tomorrow. I did reach out to Colton Miller and to Miller's team today in hopes that I would get an answer back. I'll be honest, I reached out probably about 4 hours ago. I haven't gotten anything back from those guys. But because the media will be allowed to be there tomorrow, I anticipate that the three biggest things that I personally will be looking for: Jakobi Meyers update, Colton Miller update, Chirstian Wilkins update. Let's go to Seth. If Geno gets injured, who do you want to take over? It's Aiden O'Connell. I don't know how you don't want Aiden O'Connell to step in. He's got 20 games under his belt, 17 starts, and I know that a lot of people don't think that I like Aiden. I think Aiden's a damn good backup quarterback, and I don't want to really see Cam Miller go out there.
I don't want to see Deshaun either.
Yeah, nobody wants to see Deshaun. Especially not if you're at a team meeting with Aaron Hernandez.
Oh, my God, dude. That's all I can think of right now.
I literally can't get it out of my mind, which is the most alarming.
If you want to know what we're talking about, I don't know who's all – if you have kids, I don't want to go into too much detail. I quote tweeted it. Go check out my Twitter. If you want to know what story me and Mitch are talking about around Rob Gronkowski, it's actually insane.
Yep.
That's the best way I can put it.
We've talked about a lot of things on this show. That's one that I don't know if I would talk about.
I'm just like, the one time, like, one of our moms tunes in, it's like, oh, I wonder what they're doing on live.
Yeah, not going to happen. Not going to happen.
If you want to know what we're talking about, though, I just quote tweeted it.
Yep. And I saw that last question was about Geno Smith. If you guys haven't yet voted, please go vote at the live poll at the top. Who do you think makes a bigger impact this season for the Raiders, Geno Smith or Ashton Jeanty? I thought it was a good question. Let's go to Devil J. Start of regular. What's your lucky charm you haven't said on here? Start of regular season? I would say the only thing that I've ever associated with being a good luck charm, my guy John Scheffler owns the jersey. I had a Raiders jersey split in half. And if you guys remember, it was like a few years ago when the Raiders were 6-7, and it led to the timeout Derek Carr game where they got in the playoffs. I wore a certain jersey for 4 straight games, and actually it might have been more than that, 5 games, and the Raiders would win, so I'd wear the lucky jersey again, and then we ended up giving it away to one of our Mount Raidermore members. Let's go to Los Oakland Raiders 94.
Blinky's from England, so just the way I didn't even know that was a way to say that. But if that's a thing in England, that's hilarious.
All right, we do actually have some very random breaking NFL news. The NFL's resolution to allow its players to participate in flag football at the 2028 Olympics has passed. So NFL players will be allowed to play in the flag football Olympics in 2028.
That's cool.
I'll say this. I believe that you're allowed one player from each NFL team is like what the initial thing is. I don't really want. It makes me nervous, like having some of these players go out there and put in the extra.
Not saying like, I guess you have Jeanty. I was gonna say the only people that like it would not
Trey
be.
Tucker would be great. If you could tell me which player do I think would be a great flag football player, Trey Tucker. in all honesty.
I wonder how
Dante Thornton Jr.
Are they going to have these guys try out?
I don't know, dude. I have absolutely no idea.
But also, like I said, Blinky spanking the monkey is wild.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Spanking the monkey?
Is that what they say over in England?
I'm with you. I actually don't know if I've ever heard that one either.
Spanking the monkey.
Yeah, I hope that you guys don't do that while we're doing this show. Los Oakland, why everyone getting mad about Chip Kelly for the Jeanty stands? How about this? I think it's a good part where we can get into the very first segment today because the very first part of today's show is going to be around Ashton Jeanty. It is going to be around what you're discussing in Chip Kelly, and I'll give my 2 cents on it, and that's how we'll break it down. So, again, jam-packed show, 3 segments in total. We're going to get into the last super chat or the last question that just got in there around Chip Kelly, around Jeanty, but we're also going to talk about Chirstian Wilkins. Then we'll get into a rumor around Keenan Allen linked to the Raiders. I'll tell you whether or not I like the idea of going out and getting him. And then the final thing on today's show, John Spytek revealed his Raiders outlook for 2025.
People are putting different ways to say it in the chat. Cobb the Gobbler.
The only way it's getting on screen is if you super. I'm just telling you that right now.
I've never heard of Cobb the Gobbler.
Only the long way. I'm concerned what we're going to get.
Ray said, oh, that was a common saying in the 80s.
I don't remember the 80s all that well. Though, how does it become a common saying? Like, how many monkeys get slapped until somebody goes, dude?
You know what that kind of looks like?
Yeah.
I didn't want to say it, but.
He's like, dude, first thought, man. I was just spanking a monkey. LA Crash Dog? Yeah. Yeah, I gotcha. All right, let's get into the first show before we get shut down today. Punching your clown. Holy shit. All right, I'm not reading anymore unless you super. Sorry. It's just, there's going to be people that watch this show for the first time, and you never know what's going to happen. So coming up, let's get into the first show. Raiders news and rumors. I appreciate all y'all that always put a smile on my face, that always make this show a lot of fun, and always prove to me that we got a lot more going than a YouTube channel. We got an awesome, awesome community. And the amount of laughing emojis that I see down below, you know, if this is going to turn into another Raiders Report inside joke, I love it. I think when we have inside jokes, it's really cool. It's probably one of my favorite parts about Thursday night football, just because, again, like, you're hanging out with, like, your people, you're hanging out with your real ones. It takes a lot to get me embarrassed or blushing, but you guys do a pretty damn good job once in a while. What up, Rustin? What up, Jaime? Ed Robbins, God Family, Raiders for Life, Enrique Marin. Huge, huge shout-out to all of y'all pulling up today on the show.
Y'all ready?
Y'all ready for this? And if anybody needs the pull in Aaron Hernandez, just at least leave for 5 to 10 minutes for the love of God. Yeah, just go somewhere else. You ready? Coming up, let's talk about the latest news and rumors around the Silver and Black. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and coming up on today's show, Ashton Jeanty made a change to his game. We'll talk about what it is. We'll talk about which coach helped him make this change. I also wanted to be able to give my 2 cents on whether or not it makes sense, because I am a person that believes if it's not broken, don't fix it. And then probably maybe the number one reason why y'all tuning into the show, Chirstian Wilkins injury news. What you should know, what you should believe, and we will leave it like that. If you do not know, though, this is going to be a show that always does its best to keep you guys up to date, and I want you to subscribe. That way you can become a real one. Also, if you don't know, I am filming this live right now because I go live every single Tuesday, and I've had some people ask me recently, Mitch, I can't comment during your live shows. The only reason why you can't comment on a live show is because you're not subscribed. This is how I know which people are subscribed. In my mind, May, June, and July, I always want to show love to the real ones. So please subscribe today and become a real one of the Raiders Report. Let's talk about Ashton Jeanty and this big change that he is making to his game. And if you haven't seen it yet, this is what it is. So Jeanty is changing his pre-snap stance. Chip Kelly changed Jeanty's pre-snap stance the first day of rookie minicamp, and Jeanty is kind of known for his straight-up pre-snap stance. So I know a lot of times when you see a running back get ready, they got their hands on their knees, they're ready to go, and then they get north and south. Jeanty was really known for being a back that stood up just like this, straight up. This is the best picture that I could find that I think illustrates the way Jeanty stands. If you can't see Jeanty, he's the running back all the way on the far left of that screen. But then, if you haven't noticed, Jeanty has been going up with this new hands on the knees type of getting ready set, and it's made a story because, again, Jeanty, Heisman Trophy finalist, best running back in the class, and a lot of people were going, well, he did it his entire career. Why are we going to try to change it up? Why are we going to try to switch it up? And that stance kind of became famous in a sense for Jeanty. Here's what Jeanty had to say on Chip Kelly changing his stance. Sometimes you got to go with the flow. What's crazy is Chip Kelly, he comes up to me first day of rookie minicamp. He's like, you play basketball? You ever play basketball? I'm like, yeah, I played basketball. I could dunk, all that. He's like, okay, show me how you would guard me. So in the clip where Jeanty is sitting down talking to Kay Adams and kind of talking about how this whole interaction ended up going, Jeanty then gets into a defensive stance like basketball and puts his hands up. Chip says that's exactly why you have to be down in your running back stance. So I look at it as him just being in the most ready position at all times, and I think that the fact that Jeanty is just going ahead and doing it, you really got to tip your cap to him. But my question is this. Do you like or do you dislike the idea of Chip Kelly changing Jeanty's stance? This is going to be the pinned comment here on today's show, so please go down, let me know, like or dislike. My answer coming up after this YouTube ad break. I'm going to sit up here and I'm going to say that I like the fact that Chip Kelly did this. And I do really, really subscribe to the idea if it's not broken, don't fix it. But I like the fact that Chip Kelly did this, and I like the fact that the Raiders did it because this tells me this. No player, especially a rookie, is too good or too big of a name to be coached. I don't give a shit if your name's Max Crosby. I don't give a shit if your name's Geno Smith. I bet you this. I bet you Andy Reid will walk right up to Patrick Mahomes and go, hey, if I think that I can make you better, I'm going to tell you how I think I can make you better. And a great player like an Ashton Jeanty, like a Max Crosby might go, shit, what if that's the 1% that makes me better? And I will admit that I do think that Chip Kelly's logic does make a lot of sense to me, but I also understand if it's not broke, don't fix. But this is why I love Ashton Jeanty. This is why you have to bring in a player like this because it's not just about him, and he understands the bigger picture. So coming up here, my thoughts on Jeanty making the change because this is what Jeanty also had to say on Chip Kelly changing his stance. He won for now. I'm going to try to persuade him one day. I've got to earn my stripes. Make some plays first, but I don't think it's going to be the end. So essentially what Jeanty is saying there to me is like, I'm going to listen to my coach right now. I got to go out there. I got to earn my own stripes. And if I'm able to get out there and show him that I could be an unbelievable running back, then maybe he'll allow me to go back to my stance. But what I love is Jeanty every single time he speaks. He almost reminds me just how truly of a humble superstar he is. And for those of you that are watching this live, I'm going to talk about this humble superstar quote again when I talk about John Spytek a little bit later in the show. But good teams turn great when their stars, and I mean when your star is able to put the team first and their ego aside. I'm not sitting up here saying Ashton Jeanty has an ego. What I am saying, though, is every single NFL player probably does at least have, a little bit of an ego. And when you're able to push that aside to say, I'm going to do whatever my coaches say, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to put this team first, I freaking love that. And he says that he's got to earn his stripes. We know Jeanty was unbelievable in college. And not that I don't care about it, but I'll be real. I don't really give a shit about it. I don't care how good you were in college. I care about how good you're going to be in the silver and black. And the message that Jeanty put out there was clear. I'm going to listen to my coaches. I'm going to do what they tell me to do. And then when I earn their respect, then I will speak my mind and maybe I can go back to it. That is exactly what you want your superstars to do. And if you're a Raiders fan and you want to get this thing going in the right direction 2 to 3 years, I'll be real. I don't know if Antonio Pierce gets that type of credit. But a guy like Chip Kelly will. A guy like Pete Carroll does. And you see time and time again that this team is doing what's important. So what I want you to do right now is hit the like button if you agree with this statement that I'm going to make. If Ashton Jeanty goes out and he breaks the Raiders' rookie rushing yards record, then I'm going to let him pick his stance. If he wants to go out there and stand like the way Kevin Youkilis used to bat, I don't give a shit as long as he's rushing the rock. If you don't know the Raiders' rookie rushing leaders, here is where they stand. Josh Jacobs is the only rookie running back for the Silver and Black to ever go over 1,000 yards. So if Jeanty goes out here in year one and he rushes for 1,151 yards, don't get me wrong. If he went for 14 or 1,000, barely underneath, if Jeanty wanted to do it, if the coaching staff was okay with it, I'm okay with it. But I am at the end of the day, I'm going, I hear Jeanty, what he's saying. I respect what he's saying. But he does need to be able to go out there and prove it for the Raiders. And if he can prove to me that he's even better standing straight up, who knows? Sky's the limit for this guy. So crystal ball time. Look into those crystal balls of yours and give me a more or give me a less. 1,150 rushing yards this season for Ashton Jeanty. For anybody that has watched this show multiple times knows that I am going to go with the more, and I've already put the more, and I've already put my money where my mouth is over on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. Prize Picks, you can mix and max your player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite baseball players with players from basketball, hockey, esports, and much more. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. So for me, one of the things that I've always wanted to try to show you guys is when I roll with PrizePicks, I try to show you guys my lineup. And the season-long lineup that I have right now is this. And you can already see Ashton Jeanty, I took the more on the rushing yards. This is a $20 lineup to win 370. You also have to add another player from another team just because you can't only roll with one team. But Geno Smith, Ashton Jeanty, Brock Bowers, Max Crosby, give me the more on it. Joe Burrow, I ended up going with the more on that one as well. So download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks allows you to run your game, and I want you to run your game all season long with our awesome sponsor. So, and here's actually one of the coolest parts that they're doing right now. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the Diamond. If you're a big baseball fan, you could go more or less for your shot to win up to 2,000 times your cash today. So download the app today. Use code CLNS. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup over on PrizePicks. Coming up next here on the Raiders Report, I wanted to break down the Chirstian Wilkins injury news. Raise your hand at home if you've heard that Chirstian Wilkins has been in a walking boot. Raise your hand this offseason if you are confused on what exactly is happening with Chirstian Wilkins. I'll be the first to tell you, I am also a little bit confused because there's been so many different reports out there that are confusing to me. And recently, there was a report from Anthony Galaviz from the Fresno Bee, and he said this. As the Athletics to Sean Reed reported on Monday, Wilkins is back in a walking boot, according to team sources. That is not good considering the Raiders hope to have him back by training camp. But the team is mum on Wilkins' recovery, Reed said. I'm going to be honest with you. I think that statement made by Anthony Galaviz and the Fresno Bee, it's very misleading. And I know that there's a lot of confusion around the Wilkins injury. But you know what? I know that Anthony is not the only one putting that out there. I also saw a tweet from the Raiders Wire today that said, Raiders top interior defensive lineman back in a walking boot as OTAs begin, and then they put a link down there to Wilkins. What's confusing about this Wilkins injury is Deshaun Reed was not there yesterday. Like, nobody from the Raiders media was at May 19th. They did not allow media in the building at all, so there's no way of knowing if Wilkins was actually in a boot or not. But what's interesting is they keep referring to a report that Deshaun Reed put out on Monday, May 19th. I don't know about you. I'm reading something completely different from Raiders Wire and this other Anthony guy. That's not what I read at all. This is the exact report Deshaun Reed put out. Wilkins played just 5 games last season before suffering a Jones fracture in his left foot that required surgery and knocked him out for the rest of the year. His injured foot was placed in a walking boot, but he was out of it by the end of the season. Then earlier this offseason, his foot was placed back in a boot, according to team sources. He was back out of the boot during OTA workouts recently, but the back and forth has raised some questions about his recovery process. Nowhere in that report does it state that Chirstian Wilkins is back in a walking boot. And here's the thing. If you didn't know that Wilkins had a boot on this offseason, then you should definitely hit that subscribe button, because Wilkins had a boot on before the NFL draft. And this was something that we talked about multiple times on this show. And I know that there's questions being raised about the Tony Pauline report from many months ago and that we might have to get another surgery on this Wilkins boot. But at the same exact time, I'm sitting up here going, well, Tashawn wasn't there yesterday. There was no Raiders beat reporters at media yesterday. There's no information to indicate whether or not Chirstian Wilkins was in a boot. But then I sit back and I go, if our star defensive player was actually a concern for being, getting another surgery, then 1, you'd put him in a walking boot. 2, he wouldn't be participating in non-mandatory practices. Chirstian Wilkins is out there participating in non-mandatory practices, and I'm a sicko, so I went through and I looked at all the Raiders OTA pictures from Monday. And I don't know if you noticed it. Number 94 is standing right over there. There's no walking boot on him. He don't have anything. He's out there with the guys. Now, I get it. He doesn't have a helmet on. Maybe that's going to make some people a little bit concerned. Maybe that's an issue. But in terms of this whole walking boot thing, I don't read what Tashawn Reed put out as he's in a walking boot. I read it as he was in a walking boot, and he was in a walking boot months ago. I shouldn't say months ago. At this point, before the NFL draft. So, I know that there are concerns around Wilkins, but I'll be real with you. I don't think Tashawn Reed reported that Wilkins is recently in a boot, saying that, he's recently in a boot in the month of May. It was he's recently in a boot, stating that he was recently in a boot back in April. So hopefully that all makes sense. I am not all that concerned with the Wilkins injury. If more information ends up coming out, then we'll address it. But I just have a hard time believing that the Raiders are making their star defensive tackle practice, and Wilkins is out there practicing if he's about to have another surgery on a foot, especially in non-mandatory practices. So all I want people to do is go back and look at that report again by Tashawn Reed and read actually if he is saying that he's in a boot recently or that he once was in a boot. Because I read it as he was once in a boot, which is true, not that he is in a boot right now. That's why you hit that subscribe button. That's why you turn on those notifications. If any more information comes out on this Wilkins injury, I will do my best to keep you up to date here on the Raiders Report. All right, so let's go back here to how concerned are you with the Chirstian Wilkins foot injury? Scale it from 1 to 10.
Did that make y'all feel a little better?
Do you agree with me, or do you agree with, when you go back, can you go back to the Tashawn quote? What do you guys think? Do you agree with me, or do you also read it as Tashawn is reporting that Wilkins is in a boot? Wilkins played just 5 games last season before suffering a Jones fracture in his left foot that required surgery and knocked him out for the rest of the year. His injured foot was placed in a walking boot, but was out of it by the end of the season. Then earlier this offseason, his foot was placed back in a boot, according to team sources. I know for a fact that that is true. But then he says he was back out of the boot during OTA workouts recently, but the back and forth has raised questions around his recovery process. I think the back and forth is raising questions not for the Raiders. I think it's raising questions amongst all of us and guys like Tony Pauline. That's how I read it. Because again, he wasn't there yesterday. No Raiders media members were there yesterday. And Tashawn even said that he wasn't there today. So, I know that there's a lot of concerns, but I also don't think that, Anthony, whatever the hell his name is from Fresno B, putting that out there. I don't think that that's good. And I think Raiders Wire also misread it, which is fine. I can't read shit all the time either. But at the exact same time, I think that we don't need to hit a panic button. I saw a lot of people panicking yesterday because of that Tashawn report.
And you also have to remember, okay, what does a walking boot do? It stabilizes it.
Correct.
So it could have easily been Wilkins was working out after the offseason and his foot was just, getting acclimated to the amount of work that he's putting on it, right? Like, he's not on his foot for a long period of time, and then he goes to putting his almost 300-pound body on his foot on the daily.
Yeah.
He probably got sore, and he probably put it back in there to make sure it was stabilized and to help the recovery process. It probably wasn't a re-injury. It was probably a precautionary move by him while, doing off-season workouts. That's just my guess.
Yeah, I mean, also, Max has talked about wearing a boot before just in recovery because people don't realize, again, when you are just that massive of a human being, right? Like, for me, I'm 180 pounds, right? Chuggs is probably 210 pounds. But when you are getting near the 3 bills number, you probably are going to do everything in your power to take a little bit of weight, a little bit of pressure off of a foot that you had surgery on this offseason. I'll be real. I used to do rehab stuff all the time on my knee after I tore my ACL, and I get it. I'm not an NFL player. But for anybody that's ever been an athlete before, if you've injured something, you do everything in your power to make sure that you are 100% ready to go when it matters the most. So if I was Wilkins and I felt like I am 100% healthy, but I still want to wear a walking boot, I'm not going to lie to you. I might do the exact same thing. So we will see what ends up happening. I will try it again to get more and more information, but I am really going to be looking at tomorrow the Chirstian Wilkins foot injury update because there's got to be one at this point. If our beat reporters aren't asking that question, then they don't deserve to be beat reporters, quite frankly. Let's go to Richard Hogan. You can say he went to take a shower.
I feel like that this is the most PG way that I've seen anybody say it in the chat.
He went to take a shower?
Because go ahead and read this next one.
I'll be honest. I'm not a shower guy. Blinky. So I guess during the week of the 2011 AFC Divisional between New England and Denver, I guess Aaron would strangle the Stallion in the meetings, then strangle the Stallion on the field. Yikes. Yikes. Let's blink. What up, Gutierrez? How would you pronounce that first word?
Thwack.
Thwack? Thwack your tic-tac. I don't know. Speak for yourself there, Gutierrez. Gutierrez is like, all I know is it smells like mint. You know what? Who y'all got in the Eastern Conference Finals? Let's get out of that conversation and let's get into this one. Are you going to go with the New York Knicks or are you going to go with the Indiana Pacers? And for those that do not know, we do have a New York Knicks YouTube channel hosted by Marshall Green that will be live for every single one of these games. I'm going to go with the Knicks in 7, but that's because I want Knicks in 7. The only team that I do not want to win the NBA title is the Indiana Pacers, but that's just because I want the Knicks in the finals.
Yeah, give me Knicks in 6.
Knicks in 6? See, I'm worried about Indiana. They're playing really well. I mean, so is New York, though. So is New York. Let's see what we got here. Ed Robbins going to go with the Pacers. DD Natman's going to go with the Pacers. Keon, I see you. Knicks. Radar Nation 80. Knicks. I see Devin Smith going to go with the Knicks. Ed Robbins, F the Knicks. Oh, that's because Ed's a Celtics fan.
Speaking of the Knicks in the playoffs and in the finals, do you know what was happening in the United States and the world the last time the Knicks were in the finals? It was a huge event that happened.
Bad event?
Yeah. It's around a football player.
Oh. OJ?
The
Really?
OJ chase happened during the Knicks-Rockets finals, and they actually infamously went from the finals game to show the Bronco going down the road.
So, I knew that. I know the whole back and forth, but I guess I just didn't realize.
Could you imagine
it's been that
watching
long.
the finals and they're like, sorry, breaking this interruption, Aaron Rodgers is flying down Highway 75 right now.
If anybody, it'd be Rashee Rice.
Yeah, that is true.
No, quite frankly, in today's day and age, I find that almost hard to believe, which social media might prevent it from happening because people could probably just watch it on social.
Let me know. Do y'all remember where were you during the OJ chase? Let me know. Do you remember it?
I do not.
I was just a twinkle in my
Yeah. What year was it?
Believe it was 1994.
94?
Or 94 or 95.
Yeah, I mean, I was born in 93, but I'll be honest, I do not remember. Dan78 says, watching UFC 5 on a black box. I hope that's true. I hope that that's true.
College campus from my guitar, middle school graduating. Evil AJ Hawk was a baby.
Jaime Alvarado yelling, go.
Dude, people lined up
hilarious.
the streets of L.A.
Yeah.
They were like, go, OJ, go.
Middle school graduating? That's wild. In the toilet from Evil Mitch. Not on the toilet, but inside of the toilet.
I was working delivering stuff from Zalesbo.
Okay.
I was at Mel's Bowling Alley in Alameda.
I mean,
that's very specific.
I was going to say, that's almost too specific. Crash Dog. I was chasing him. That's hilarious, man. Shout out to the 557 people we got here live today on the Raiders Report. And again, if anybody wants to party with Marshall Green and our Knicks channel, check out Knicks at Chat Sports on YouTube and go over there, subscribe. I promise you this. If you like the Raiders Report, you're going to like our Knicks channel as well. They get down. They have a good time over there.
You'll like the way you look.
I guarantee it. Coming up next here on the show, let's get into some more rumors today around Keenan Allen and a certain rookie that is really starting to stand out early on for the Las Vegas Raiders. What?
Of course, I need to move over just one.
Panda?
Yep.
Okay. It's all good. It's all good.
I just looked in there. I was like, oh, it's not in there.
Who wants a shout out here on the Raiders Report? Give me some me's down below. And if we got any questions, I'm just waiting on Chuggs to load something up here on our end. Justin Buckman says, Knicks, just for you. I appreciate that.
I bet you Richie has a good story of where he was when the OJ thing happened.
Probably, but I'd be concerned for him to tell it.
I was at Sheets and
I'd be concerned. If you're a Raider fan, you should also be a Celtics fan from Cameron Sproul. I don't see how that logic checks out. Somebody can explain that one to me. Zalesbo, what's going on? Rodolfo, I see you down there. Sheffy, what's up, man? Mooncage, Benjamin Levy, Zalesbo, The Real Relic, Evil Mitch, Mari Gallardo, ED Amazing says Raiders and Spurs. So we got a few Spurs fans. Growing up, I didn't really grow up with a favorite team, though I got a lot of family members that are Knicks fans. Again, a lot of my family is New York. I got a few Sixers fans. My dad actually grew up liking the Sixers because of Dr. J. But when I would watch basketball, I would just watch like LeBron James, or growing up as a kid, I had a Michael Jordan jersey that I would wear. I'd watch the Bulls in the 90s. Very, very young, but I did. Pumped for the season, can't control life. I'm with you, dude. I can't wait. And I'm nervous about how excited I am for the Raiders season, only because I feel like the last time I was this excited for a season and I had the expectations that I do was the 2022 Raiders. The first year of McDaniels, it was the trade for Devontae Adams. Hell, I remember making a trip out to California and just talking to Raiders fans, and they were like, oh, this is going to be our year. I forget what we ended up finishing that season. It was not very good. 6 wins, 11 losses maybe off the top of my head. Josh McDaniels. But, man, oh, man, I really, really hope that this season goes the way that all of us are hoping that it ends up going. Really, really hoping. All right, we're good to get this thing going. Have you seen the JPJ interview with Max? No, I haven't seen it yet, but I will go check it out. I'll probably watch it either tomorrow or on Thursday when I get a little bit of extra time. Coming up next here on the show, let's talk about Keenan Allen being linked to the Raiders and also some rumors on a certain rookie that is really starting to catch some attention. That's all coming up right now here on the Raiders Report. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Board, and today's show is presented by Panda Sups. If you don't know, use code GENTY for 25% off at pandasups.com. And if you want to know the products that I am using to help me get in better shape for my wedding, I'll talk about those here in just a little bit. So if you haven't seen this rumor linking Keenan Allen to the Las Vegas Raiders, I'm going to talk about the rumor because when I saw Keenan Allen linked to the Raiders, this was my face exactly, and if you felt the exact same way, why don't you smash that like button? But I mean this, I don't want Raiders fans to ever miss anything, and because in the offseason, rumors are everywhere. And I'm somebody that likes rumors a lot because I do think that you can learn something from a rumor, which then could potentially lead to some smoke, which could lead to some fire, and then you see a whole story really come together. It's really, really important, though, for people to be subscribed in the offseason. That way you can differentiate, hopefully that's the right word, rumors to news. And I'm going to make sure that you can do that by hitting that sub button. So let's go to the story here around Keenan Allen being linked to the Las Vegas Raiders. And when I first started doing this show, I would look at articles or I would look at the top trending topics on social media and I would talk about what people are talking about, which is exactly what I am doing here. So Yardbarker put out an article linking Keenan Allen to the Las Vegas Raiders, and it said that the Raiders should consider adding this Pro Bowl wide receiver before training camp. Training camp, for those of you that do not know, is going to be near the end of July. We actually don't have the dates yet. It's just always around like the early 20s of July, so just keep that in mind. But Allen has been linked to the Raiders all off season long. He was a player that I talked about a bunch in the month of March. He was a player that we talked about a lot leading up into the NFL draft. And when you consider the amount of connections that Keenan has to this organization, to the Raiders, you can kind of sit back and go, okay, I know how important relationships are. I can see why Keenan Allen would be linked to the Raiders. So here's what Yardbarker had to say on the Silver and Black, adding number 13. Keenan Allen would be a good fit for the Las Vegas Raiders if the team decides to add another wide receiver. Granted, the Raiders selected 3 wide receivers in the 2025 NFL Draft in Jack Bech, Dante Thornton Jr., and Tommy Millott. Those receivers joined Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, Alec Bachman, Keyshawn Smith, Jeff Foreman, Keyshawn Jackson Jr., Cedric Jackson, and Kyle Phillips. You can pencil in Myers and Tucker as starters with star tight end Brock Bowers, who led the team in receiving yards with 1,194 last season. So when I do this show, I really mean this when I say it. I do it for all of y'all, but I do this also so you guys get a voice. I already have a voice up here, but I love to be able to interact with you guys, so please, this is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. While you're getting hit with a YouTube ad break, I want you to scroll on down and answer the pinned comment. Type S for sign, type P for pass. Should the Raiders go out and sign Keenan Allen? If it was up to me right now, I'm typing my P for pass, and I'm going to pass on Keenan, which might surprise a lot of people just considering the fact of how big I was on the Raiders going out and getting Allen before the NFL draft. Here's the thing, though. I can make an argument, and I could make a show on why it makes sense for the Raiders to go out and sign him. I could also make a show right now on why it doesn't make sense to go out and get him. The reason why I am passing on him right now, it's because I want to see what our rookies do. I want to see what our team looks like before we go out and spend. If that doesn't look good, we have a lot of time before training camp ends up rolling in. So first off, though, because this is the show and I gave you a sign and pass, I'm actually going to break down why it would make sense for the Raiders to go out and sign Allen. I'm also going to tell you why it doesn't make go out and sense to go get him. The first reason of why I could see the Raiders going out and signing Keenan Allen, it's because of the coaching connection. If you don't know how important coaching connections are to this Raiders regime, then you probably haven't watched the Raiders Report or anything Raiders related in the past few months. He has got a really good connection with the current Raiders wide receiver coach, Chris Beatty. Beatty was with him with the Chargers for 2021 to 2021 to 2023, and then he ended up going to Chicago. Allen ended up following him to Chicago in 2024. So not only does he have that coaching connection, Allen is still a reliable receiver. And believe me, if there was one player that would drive me nuts on the Chargers, with the barbecue chicken statements and all that, it was Keenan Allen. But he is still a reliable player, and he's been able to put up some good numbers. And if you listen to what Caleb Williams had to say and a lot of Bears people at the end of last season, they said that Keenan was realistically like one of the big go-to guys for Caleb. But in 15 games last season, 70 catches, 744 yards. In 2023, over 100 grabs. 2022, I mean, if the trend continues, he might put up over 100 catches and over 1,000 yards, because I do still think that he is a reliable wide receiver in the National Football League. Another reason here of why I think it would be a smart move for the Raiders to go get him, he would be a good fit with Geno Smith. I do think the type of player that Keenan is in terms of route running, I still think that he can catch the football at a high level. I know he's had some drops, but to me, he's still a good route runner. He knows exactly where he needs to be. He can be a good route tree. And when you have an extremely accurate quarterback, it's good to have that. Though, you could also argue that if he's a good fit for Geno, you got to bring him in ASAP Rocky. That way he can learn a chemistry. That way he can learn and build chemistry. And then that way we're not waiting, for that chemistry to build come August, come September. The final reason here, while I'll throw this out there, is he's a Raiders fan. And maybe that doesn't mean anything to anybody out there, but I have a hard time believing you have an opportunity to play for the team that you grew up rooting for, the team that you grew up watching. That tells me that you're going to bring 110%, and that's the Keenan Allen that I want. I want 110% Keenan Allen playing for a team that he grew up rooting for. That sounds like a guy to me that's going to go out there and going to compete. But I did say that I would not go out and sign Allen right now, and here's why the Raiders shouldn't go out and get Keenan. The first reason is age and his injury concerns. He's getting up there in age. You can't deny it. And for me, at this point, if I'm sitting up here going, well, I actually don't know if the Raiders are trying to win a Super Bowl right now. Let's get these young rookies that you're hoping can win a Super Bowl with you in 2 to 3 years. Let's get them up to speed as quickly as humanly possible. Because, yes, Keenan Allen is good. I don't think Keenan Allen would be a part of the long-term plan. I think Allen would be a one-year prove-it type of deal. Also, some of those injury concerns. 11 games missed over the past 3 seasons. Not a lot of games, but that's games missed, not games that he was battling something. The next reason here of why I wouldn't go out and do it, he is a bad run blocker. Last season, according to PFF, he had a 31.6 run blocking grade. That was 3rd worst in the National Football League. If there's one thing that we've said over and over and over again this offseason, it's how the Raiders, I think, want to be versatile and how they want to, keep people on edge. If you put Keenan Allen in the game, that might tip your cap of, hey, we're going to be throwing the football. Brock Bowers, Shaq Bech, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, all those guys are good run blockers. So if you want to be able to stay versatile, and if you want to have all your players out there that can help Ashton Jeanty be the best version of Ashton Jeanty, maybe you don't go out and get Keenan Allen. Let's go to the next reason here. Jacoby extension. If I'm Jacoby Myers and I've made it known that I want a brand new deal because I got $0 million on my contract, and Jacoby's not going to be the person that just is like, hey, I want a new extension. Hey, I'm not going to practice. Hey, I'm going to sit out. That's not the way Jacoby is programmed, and I'm okay with that. But I'm telling you all this right now, I actually think it would rub some people the wrong way. And when I say people, I think it would rub some players the wrong way, because it wouldn't shock me at all if Jacoby's wearing a C on his chest this year. That's how widely regarded he is in that locker room, and he deserves it. He has been dealing with a lot of bullshit from the quarterback position. But if you go out and you pay Keenan Allen, let's say $11.1 million this season, and you do that before you give an extension to Jacoby, before you give an extension to Colton Miller, I actually don't think that that's a smart way to invest your money. The final one is this: the Raiders rookies. And I believe in Jack Bech. I think Dante Thornton Jr. is going to be a good field stretcher. I also want to see what Tommy Mellott has in store. I also think that they are very, very much so underselling Kyle Phillips and what he could potentially bring to this organization and what he could potentially bring to the field. But I want to see what our rookies got in May. I want to see what our rookies look like in June. And I know that if you brought in Keenan Allen, it would probably spark some more competition. But before I go out and sign Keenan Allen, I want to know what my rookies have. And the more reps my rookies get with Geno Smith, the more I'm going to know if they're legit or if they're not legit. Speaking of legit, Jack Bech, I want y'all to see some of these Raiders rumors on Bech, because I'm telling you right now, this guy is legit. And I might be crazy to say this, but I think Jack Bech could be the reason whether or not the Raiders would go out and get a Keenan Allen. I'll talk about this in just a moment. But if you do not know, today's show, again, is presented by Panda Supps. It is owned, it is operated by a die-hard Raiders fan. And this Raiders fan has made it very possible for me to try to stay in the best shape. And I'm somebody where I like to try to look my best. But recently, I'm also trying to get that 1% because I'm only trying to get married once. I got my honeymoon coming up. And if you use code Jeanty, you're going to be able to get 25% off at pandasupps.com. So the 4 products that I use right now every single day. The Fuel Premium Protein from Panda. I'm using their aminos, their BCAAs. They'll always stay hydrated and to get the most out of my workout. Creatine, extremely important for workouts. And then the Cuts Fat Burner because I want to try to lose a little bit of extra belly fat that I got hanging around on me because I like to have some beers from time to time, which I'm sure you guys know. If you want to take advantage of the products I'm using over at Panda Supps, it's pandasupps.com. That link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments and in the description of today's show. So let's get into some of these rumors now on Jack Bech because I think what I'm going to say might surprise some people, but then again, I would say the people that watch this show every single day probably aren't going to be too surprised of the statements that I got coming out of my mouth. But before I tell you that, I do actually want to go back, though, to a quote that Yardbarker had to say, because I'm going to dispute it a little bit. The receivers join Jakobi Meyers, Trey Tucker, Alex Bachman, Keyshawn Smith, Jeff Foreman, Keyshawn Jackson, Shedrick Jackson, and Kyle Phillips. The important part here is this. You can pencil in Myers and Tucker as starters with star tight end Brock Bowers. I'm going to be honest with you. And maybe Yardbarker just doesn't know the Raiders all that well. Maybe the writer of that article doesn't know the ins and outs of the silver and black. But I don't think that you can pencil in Trey Tucker as a starter. And quite frankly, when I first read that, I was literally like, I think anybody that's penciling in Trey Tucker as a starter is a little bit crazy because of Jack Bech. Like, to me, I think Bech is ahead of Trey Tucker on that wide receiver depth chart. I really do believe that Jakobi Meyers is the Raiders' number 1 receiver and that Jack Bech is the number 2 receiver and Trey Tucker is the number 3. But he has already been very impressive this offseason on and off the field. And I do believe if the season were to start today, the former LSU TCU receiver, he's going to be your number 2 receiver because of what he brings to the table as a receiver, but it's also what he brings as a blocker. And because he can do all these different things as a blocker, he's a tough mother effer, he wants to run through your face, he's going to be the number 3 target in that passing game. Bowers is going to be your number 1. Jakobi Meyers is going to be number 2. And then I think number 3 is going to be Jack Bech, though you can make an argument there's a 3A, 3B, 3C, and Michael Mayer, Jack Bech, Trey Tucker. Hell, you might even be able to throw in Dante Thornton Jr. and Tommy Millott. But I did say that Jack Bech, to me, would be the reason whether or not the Raiders would go out and get a guy like Keenan Allen. Because if you're this confident in Bech, and the Raiders are this confident in Bech, I'm not saying that he's going to turn into the next Max Crosby, but I always have things written down in my notebook just because I've done this for so long. I have so many notes on Max when he was a rookie and how he was just outshining all these other rookies and how he was doing laps around Arden Key at the time. Some of the notes that I'm getting early on around Bech are that this guy is just clearly the best one out of the bunch at wide receiver, and a lot of the notes that we're getting is this guy's a sicko, this guy's a dog, this guy's got that Raider mentality. He's bringing all of that extra juice that this organization wants. So I do think that the only way that the Raiders go out and they sign a guy like Keenan Allen is if they lose confidence in Jack Bech and if they lose confidence in this Raiders rookie wide receiver room, because one of the biggest winners from minicamp was Bech, because Bech also allows this team to be physical. He allows them to be violent. John Spytek talked about the mentality that this team is trying to bring, and they're trying to bring that physicality and violence. Not saying that Keenan can't do that, but Keenan's not going to be somebody that's going to be violent, not going to be somebody I think goes out there and going to be competing the way Bech does, because Allen's going to be 34 years old and he's going to get paid and he's going to want to try to stay healthy. When you look at Bech and that violent mentality, it shows up on tape. That 74.5 PFF run grade, that was 13th best among all Power 5 schools last season. And Bech competes at that Max Crosby type of level. That's a guy that you want May, June, July, getting extra and extra reps. And then after you see it for a few months, and if you go, yeah, I don't know if this guy can do it, then that's when you go out and you consider signing Keenan Allen before training camp starts in July. Right now, I don't think that there's any need to sign Keenan Allen. So my question to all of you after me sitting up here saying Bech will be the Raiders' wide receiver number 2, I would say that he's going to be the 4th option in the offense behind Jeanty, Bowers, and Jakobi Meyers. But how many receiving yards for Bech this upcoming season? You're going to get hit with another YouTube ad break. While that ad is playing, I want you to scroll on down and give me your answer. My answer will be after this break. Or maybe I should call it this YouTube ad Bech. I'm going to go with 43 catches, 602 yards. That is an average of 14 yards per catch and 4 touchdowns this season for the Silver and Black. Some of you might go, man, that's not a lot. I actually think that the Raiders have a legit chance to have 3, maybe 5 receivers with over 500 receiving yards. I anticipate Bowers and Jakobi to have over 1,000. And I anticipate Trey Tucker, Michael Mayer, and Jack Bech to all be around that 500 number, on top of the fact of what Jeanty is going to be able to do in the ground game. That might seem like a little bit of a low number, but at the end of the day, that's about 2-3 catches per game for Jack Bech. That is a good contribution from a rookie who will be the 3rd target in the passing game and the 4th option overall in the offense. That's the number. I'm seeing a lot of other numbers out there, and I appreciate all those guesses. But to me, I'm going to go 602 receiving yards for Mr. Jack Bech. All right, y'all, be the GM. Should the Raiders go out and sign Keenan Allen? Give me an S for sign, P for pass. After seeing and hearing all that, are you with me that pass now and break glass of emergency, sign later?
No, I would sign him.
You'd go out and get him right now?
I would sign him.
Okay.
Because you don't have a legit number 1. And even no matter how good Bech is doing, I always go back to this.
I'm listening.
When Jamar Chase was a rookie at rookie minicamp, there were jokes about this dude's a UFL player. He's dropping balls. He doesn't look like a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. This dude sucks. And look at where Jamar Chase is now. So I don't want to overreact to Jack Bech is looking great at camp. He probably does. He probably is working his ass off. But I also kind of think the Raiders secondary, is that making him look a little bit better because you have Jacorian Bennett, and then who else is a dog in the secondary?
A lot of unknowns.
So in my mind, if I can for sure go at a guy, and I know Keenan Allen, I know he's older and maybe a little injured, but if it's not expensive, if I can add a guy like Keenan Allen to this room already that you know is going to be at least like this floor good, I think it just raises the room altogether.
Do you think Keenan's better than Jakobi Meyers?
I mean, yes, over his career. Like right now, probably equal.
Okay. I think Jakobi is better right now for the Raiders, though. If he like Keenan Allen or Jakobi Meyers in a Cincinnati Bengals offense with Joe Burrow, I'd probably take Keenan because I do think that he's the better receiver out of the group. But like, here's the one thing: if they went out and they signed Keenan, I wouldn't be upset about it. But I don't think it makes sense right now. Like I also say that May 20th, I'm saying that, where maybe post June 1st, some other moves end up happening. Maybe then. I'm also sitting here going, it's probably going to be about $11 million per year.
And I don't think it's a you can have him or Jack Bech like one or the other type thing. Yeah. Bech is still a rookie.
Yep.
I think it's
bad for Trey Tucker.
I think it's more indicative of Trey Tucker and where they see Dante Thornton Jr. I think it's more on those two guys. If they don't think wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 4 are that talented, that good, then I could see them saying, hey, you add Keenan Allen so your 3 starters are Jakobi, Bech, Keenan Allen. Whenever you run 3 wide receiver sets,
sure,
and you're like, okay, we don't feel comfortable with Trey Tucker and Dante Thornton as, those top 3 guys. That's what I think.
I got you. I mean, like I said, if it was up to me, I wouldn't do it right now. I wouldn't be upset about it if they did it. I just think that the Raiders have other things that they need to take care of before they went out and did it. But then again, you got a brand new regime. If you did plan on, if the Raiders looked at me dead in the eyes right now and said, we have plans on signing Keenan Allen, I would say then let's go get Keenan Allen before June 10th, which is mandatory minicamp. Because then I would want him to build that rapport and that chemistry with a brand new quarterback, brand new regime. I just don't think that it's going to happen, and I don't think that the Raiders are going to do it right now. So I will still continuously say P for pass because I think that we can invest like $11 million in Keenan Allen or $11 million to go out and get a nickel and a free safety. Like, I'd rather spend my money that way, But
that's also saying that they're going to spend the money on those
correct.
things.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Like,
you're right.
If
we don't go out and get a free safety and a nickel, we might have to put up 40
if you're telling me,
game.
I can have Keenan Allen or I can have, Justin Simmons and more depth at another position, then I'm going to Justin Simmons. But it's like,
sure.
are they making that move?
Sure.
Like, if they are, then cool.
Yeah,
if not, then like you can't roll the money into next year. Like, why not spend that $30 million and try to make your overall roster better?
I hear you. Let's go to Cameron Sproul. Is Keenan Allen a good locker room guy? If so, sign him. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of any negative Keenan Allen locker room stories that I've ever come across, but if the Raiders went out and they got him, I would feel like, again, I wouldn't be nervous about it because this is a Raiders organization that's showing you that they're doing their homework, they're going to be extra cautious, and that they are planning for the long haul. Maybe they think Keenan can help for that long haul. Let's go to M. Batch. Tom Brady commentates Week 1 Raiders versus Patriots. I don't think so. If I had to guess, there's going to be some sort of ceremony for Tom Brady that week.
You think so?
I mean, it's Week 1. It wouldn't shock me if they come up with something to remember Tom Brady. I think Brady's going to be at that game in person. I think so. But, hey, what do I know?
I feel like he'd have to be commentating because he still works for Fox, right?
Yeah.
So he'll be doing a game.
I mean, could you imagine if he did have to commentate that game? I mean, in my mind, he's got to root for the Raiders. I know you might not be able to act biased, but
do you think he would?
He is part owner of the Raiders. I feel like because of that.
But he won
I know.
6 Super Bowls with the Patriots.
But in my mind, he grew up a Mets fan. If the Yankees drafted me, I'm a Yankees fan now. Like, to me, in my mind, that team, they took a chance on me, and I get it, drafting compared to being an owner is a little bit different, but I honestly think my family, grown up Mets fans their entire life, if the Yankees drafted me, they would root for the Yankees, and they would root for me to pitch. But then again, do you remember the Marcus Peters story where Marcus Peters, his family grew up Raiders fans, and then they went to like a Raiders-Chiefs game. This is back when Marcus Peters played for the Chiefs, and Marcus Peters' dad showed up in a Raiders jersey.
Yeah.
Which, I guess to each their own. All right, y'all. Another question we got.
If you had a son who became a Chief.
Oh, boy. I mean, in all honesty, I'd probably have to root for the Chiefs and my son then, which might really kill a lot of people here. But at the end of the day, I hope that every parent would support their kid to the utmost potential. I'd still be a Raiders fan at heart, but I would wear my kid's jersey because he's my kid. Is that a bad thing to say? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it's a bad thing. Who you got in the Western Conference Finals? Timberwolves or the Thunder? Give me an MIN for the Timberwolves, OKC for the Thunder. Give me Thunder in 7.
Anthony said, nah.
Nah, you ain't my kid. That's a tough debate. I'll tell you this, that put me in a mental pretzel. That's a mental pretzel question.
Like, my kid's getting drafted?
I'm like, only if he gives me his entire signing bonus. Or I'll pull, with Daniel Carlson. So, Jeanty paid Carlson for the number 2. Jeanty didn't reveal the number, though from what I have gathered, it's more than 6 figures for the number. But, imagine you tell your kid, hey, buy me and your mom a house, and I'll root for the team. If you don't do that, though, I can't help you. That's shitty. That's super shitty. If my dad were to say that to me, I'd be like, that's pretty shitty. Chuggs is like, if my dad said that to me.
Dude, I'd be surprised hearing from him.
I was waiting for a joke. Oh, man. Ed Robbins says Minnesota in 5.
It's like the end of the Waterboy movie.
Oh, God.
I'm your daddy.
Dad. Dude.
We could go on Jay Leno.
Oh, man. Chuggs. Never change. What up, David Zahn? What up, Luda?
Cameron, I like the way you asked this question.
Is Jalen Ramsey still a thing or no? Are NFL teams interested in Jalen Ramsey? Yes. I would say, Cameron, go check out the show that I did. It's probably last Friday or last Thursday. I talk about the latest Jalen Ramsey trade rumors, but according to sources, not my sources, the NFL, a lot of teams are very interested in Jalen, but nothing's going to happen until after June 1st. Let's go to Nick McBride.
Zahn, what are you wearing?
Probably Kurt Schilling's bloody sock. Kurt Schilling bloody sock equals Chirstian Wilkins boot. Connect the dots for me there. So I remember the Schilling bloody sock, pitched a hell of a game, had the bloody sock. But what? I don't remember what happened after it. I have no idea.
Yeah.
And that was many years ago. Though Kurt Schilling was one of my favorite pitchers of all time. Dude was a magician. Yeah, and he wasn't really somebody that overpowered you. I mean, he threw hard, but he was just could spot anything, could throw anything.
So, I know you said the thing about Brady.
Okay.
So, does that mean this now?
Charles Woodson to be a limited partner of the Cleveland Browns. So, I talked about this on a show the other day.
Is Charles Woodson a Browns fan?
He is 0.01% owner of the Browns.
Is he a Browns fan?
I guess you're going to have to ask him. Because what's interesting is it has to do with his whiskey. He has a Packers whiskey. He has a Raiders whiskey. They don't have like Raiders or Packers logos on them. It's just the color of the bottle, which actually the first time I ever tried the Woodson whiskey, Charles sent me a Packers one on accident instead of a Raiders one. And I remember like joking about it like, all right, Charles clearly doesn't know who the frick I am. I mean, that was 4 years ago. I mean, he still might not know who the freak I am, but it's a good question. It's a good question. I hope that he's still a Raiders fan. But no, you're right. By that logic.
I mean, I feel like
he's from Cleveland. He's from Ohio.
24 not legendary anymore.
Nah, 24 will always be legendary. I think it's also like you have to consider guys trying to make money. And maybe that's all. Maybe Tom Brady just looked at the Raiders and goes, I can make a lot of money in that situation.
He can.
Business decision. He can and he's gonna. The amount of money that the amount of money Tom Brady and the Raiders are going to be worth, I think 10 years from now, it's just going to continue to grow and grow. I don't know if they'll ever pass the Cowboys, but I do legitimately think in another 10 years, they might be the second most valuable team in the
almost
NFL.
think it's like if somebody was like,
because
Mitch,
of the location.
I'll give you $25 million to say you're a Chiefs fan. And you just take it and you say it, but you know you're like, I'm not a Chiefs fan.
That's probably a good analogy. If anybody out there wants to pay me $25 million, I'll tell you this. I'll say I'm a Chiefs fan, and then every show that we do, we'll just like give away Raiders season tickets. Or it'd be pretty wild if we were able to like. You always see stories of like there was a Pacers fan in New York. I think he had a Tyrese Halliburton jersey on, and Tyrese is paying for that fan to go to the game. Could you imagine if we were like, we're going to spend $1 million and we're going to pack the house at Arrow?
What we should all do,
just buy tickets
as a joke, and I'm not even kidding. Write this down.
I'm listening.
We should have Marsh wear his Jalen Brunson stuff, and all of us wear Pacers things and like throw trash at him and be like, "F you, like you suck."
We could do it down here.
Yeah, and just post it and be like, dude, this Knicks fan was getting berated by Pacers fans.
I kind of like it.
At Jalen Brunson.
I kind of like it. Or, I was going to say, how could we do it the other way? But I was going to say, we could put all those Raiders jerseys to use. But, like, if the Raiders, but that doesn't help us.
I don't know where we get Pacers stuff, but.
I was like, do they even sell Pacers stuff?
We can try to get like the cheapest Pacers shirts from online.
We can see what we do. Let's go to the next one. I think we already got that one. Eric, what's up, Mitch and Chuggs? This year, 10 of being a Raiders fan. I grew up a Bama fan and followed where Cooper got drafted. It's been a ride. Yeah, it's been a roll tide.
Just imagine where, like, have you seen those videos where it's like, if I could go back and tell old me, and it's like you outside the house and you're like, no! It's like you're opening up a Raiders jersey and you're like.
I mean, going from the winning of the Alabama Crimson Tide to what the Raiders have been, I'll give you this, though, Eric. I give you credit for sticking with the Raiders after Amari Cooper got traded. Because you could have jumped ship, but you decided to stay. So I think that loyalty doesn't go unnoticed. But I hear you. Like, I'm a new Raiders fan, too. I hate losing more than I like winning. It's been tough. It's been tough also just because of how many things I've disagreed with. But for the first time since I've done this show, I really do believe in what the Raiders are doing. Like, and I mean that. Like, there's been times in past regimes where I could be like, never would have gone out and got Jimmy Garoppolo. Never would have hired Josh McDaniels. Never would have signed Trent Brown to that massive contract extension. Like, there were things that I've always disagreed with. There's been things that I disagree with this offseason. But for the first time since I've done this show, I do believe in what the Raiders are doing. And I do believe in this organization. And I believe in this regime, which I've never been able to say.
I believe in Chip Kelly.
If you just clapped, then you should be okay with Ashton Jeanty like this. Let's go to Real Cowboy. I'm sure Woodson owned the Browns when he played, so he may as well own a piece now. I love that. That's
pretty good.
That's a good one. That's like that's kind of like the cover letter we got. It was like, what was it?
I used to work at a hospice care.
Yeah.
So, helping people die. So it's a really good transition into covering the Cleveland Browns.
Yep. That was actual cover letter that we got here at Chat Sports. We got 536 people here in the building. Let's get into the final segment on today's show. Again, I always appreciate people that tune in. We will not be live tomorrow. We will be live on Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern or 4 p.m. Eastern time, and we'll also be live on Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. So be on the lookout for that. Now that it's the off season, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday lives. Monday, Friday, Madden live. Tuesday, Thursday, normal live show like we always do right here. Patrick B. just closed on my first house. Pretty excited. Patrick B., congratulations.
Dude, hell yeah.
Congrats, dude.
Any suggestions that can help Patrick B. to make his house a home?
Get some silver and black in there. And I'm sorry I keep bending over, y'all. I hurt my lower back the other day.
He's just trying to see if he can, do it.
Yep, brush my teeth. I hurt my lower back, dude.
Brushed my teeth.
I hurt my lower back the
Gronk
other day.
wants to know if you can watch.
It's been bad, dude. It's been bad. Congrats, Patrick B. Probably can watch. Phoenix King. Mitch, I DM'd you the McDaniels poster I'm bringing to Foxborough through Instagram. Boy. Hopefully, your name is close to what I'm looking.
Phoenix.
Though I don't see anything in regards to Phoenix.
Phoenix King, what's your
IG? What's your
IG?
What's the IG, Phoenix King?
Kibble and Bit says, get a chiropractor, bro.
It's funny that you mentioned that. Alex's sister wants me to go to one.
It's Hanshin. Dude, that's very far from.
I'm literally looking at it. I actually thought that this was going to be you because I saw a photo.
McDaniels, we're coming for you.
We're coming for you.
That's actually pretty funny.
We're coming for you. I'll tell you this. It could have been, much worse. I actually tip my cap to you for having a sign that you can actually bring into the stadium. That's not what I expected. I'll be real. It's not what I expected. Tip my cap to you. Patrick Roche said, is there a duck race today? No duck race today. We will do another duck race on Friday for Madden. On Tuesdays and Thursdays this offseason, we won't do duck races. We'll do a $10 duck race on Monday. We'll do a $20 duck race on Friday. So just be on the lookout for that. Coming up next here on the show, I want to get into what John Spytek had to say in a recent interview, and he just kind of revealed some of the Raiders' plans here for 2025. I'll break down what he said. I'll give you my 2 cents, and I'll also tell you what he said about Ashton Jeanty and Geno Smith. You ready? Chuggs is ready to go. This is the final segment on today's show, so if you want us to stay live after, make sure that you're using hashtag Raiders, or if you definitely want us to stay live, make sure you super chat, get some questions in. That way when the segment is done, we have some questions to look at, answer, and then we'll get the F out of here. Coming up, let's talk about John Spytek and what he had to say in a recent interview about the Raiders' 2025 outlook. Coming up today here on the Raiders Report, John Spytek reveals the Raiders' 2025 outlook, and I'm going to give you my 2 cents on it. We're also going to be breaking down why the Raiders went out and they drafted Ashton Jeanty, and why the Raiders went out and traded for Geno Smith. If you did not see the full interview of the Raiders GM sitting down with Ari Meirov in the NFL Spotlight, you can go check it out. It's on YouTube. But I'm going to be breaking it down and just giving you my overall thoughts on what Spytek had to say. Though, for the first time in a long time, I believe in what this organization is doing. And if you believe in John Spytek, and if you're excited for this Raiders football season, I want you to hit that like button. I want you to smash that like button. I want you to hit that like button so hard that your parents are going, what the hell is that noise happening in there? And if you're still living at home with your parents, get out of the house. Hit that like button. So coming up here on the show, I'm going to break down the overall outlook from John Spytek in a recent interview. And the first thing that he said of what you can expect from this Raiders team is you can expect this team to go out there and compete. And the amount of times we've heard this term, compete, over and over and over again, Spytek says that the Raiders, they're going to practice hard every day. And I do think that it's already noticeable that you're seeing players that are going out there and they are participating in non-mandatory events. That's a huge tip of the cap to Spytek, and it's a huge tip of the cap to Pete Carroll. Players with energy, coaches that bring in excitement. When you got players that show up with energy every day, and then you marry that with coaches that bring the excitement level that somebody like, Pete Carroll's going to bring, that really helps build a roster. But the Raiders want guys that love football. And this is very, very clear. And every single time you hear a Raiders coach, hear a Raiders front office member talk about what the outlook of this team is. Let's go to the next thing that Spytek has to say in terms of the Raiders' outlook. Solid depth. And I did a video earlier in the week about the Raiders getting screwed by the NFL and just how we don't have as many rest days. But in that video, I said, I wonder if the Raiders knew that this was going to happen and they prepared for it, because all that this team did the entire offseason, I mean all the way back in February, March, April, was this team tried to build solid depth. And the Raiders wanted to build solid depth, and they did it, I think, in a very, honestly, cost-efficient way. But depth also leads to more competition. So when you bring players in that are fighting, clawing for their NFL jobs, that is going to make the overall room a lot better. I think the Raiders' plan at linebacker, I think the Raiders' plan at cornerback is they're saying, let's just get a bunch of guys competing for a job. It's going to make the entire room better. Also, we know that injuries happen, and the Raiders got zapped by the injury bug last season. So when you have depth, it helps limit the impact of suffering some major injuries, which hopefully it doesn't happen. Let's go to another thing that Spytek had to say about the Raiders' outlook this season. The Raiders plan to win, and I know going into the year there was a lot of speculation of whether or not this is going to be a rebuild, what exactly is going to be the Raiders' plan. John Spytek made it very clear. This team plans on winning, and they plan on winning right away. He also understands, I think, what it takes to win in the AFC West and the amount of talent that is in this division. He also goes on and says, how stacked the coaches are, how stacked the quarterback room is. But one of the things that I've been saying that I think that the Raiders are doing this offseason is they're copycatting what the Philadelphia Eagles did to beat Kansas City. They're copycatting what Tampa Bay and Tom Brady and John Spytek did to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl back in 2019. So to me, this is a team that thinks that they can win right away, and this is a team trying to build a roster that allows them to win right away against the Chiefs, against the AFC West in the National Football League. The final thing that you are going to get from Raiders team this season and the outlook from Spytek is you're going to get a team that plays hard. And you're going to get a team that shows up and they're going to give 110% September, October, November, December, and that's a brand of football that pays dividends in January and February. One of the things that Spytek said is he mentioned a quote in that interview from John Meirov, and it said, football sometimes is as simple as who can play harder, longer. Think about that quote, because if you're a Raiders team, you're going, I need to be able to get guys that are just crazy mother effers, that love football, they're going to put their bodies on the line, but you also need depth in order to do that. So I think that that's going to be the mindset that the Raiders bring. They want high-energy guys. They want to be able to take care of the football. We obviously turned the ball over way too much last season, but an easy way to take care of the football is also to be able to sit there and run the rock. And the Raiders want to be able to attack you down the field, and they also want to be able to pound the rock. A very balanced offense. That is how John Spytek, the Raiders GM, envisions the Silver and Black's outlook this upcoming season. So coming up next here, I'm going to tell you why the Raiders drafted Jeanty. And I've done some shows already this offseason on why the Raiders went out and drafted Jeanty. That's my opinion. Now I'm going to tell you why John Spytek went out and drafted Ashton Jeanty, because I think what he has to say might be a little bit more important. Before I break that down and I just give you the 2 cents of why the Raiders went out and they drafted Ashton Jeanty, I am going to give you guys a question that if you're watching this live right now, it is the pinned comment on today's show. So if you haven't already gone and voted, please make sure that you go and vote. And if you're not watching this live, this is going to be the pinned comment here on today's show. It's a hard one, but it's a good question. Who's going to make a bigger impact for the Las Vegas Raiders? Yeah, there was definitely a giggity in there. Who's going to make a bigger impact for the Raiders this upcoming season? Is it going to be quarterback Geno Smith? Type GS. If you think it's going to be running back Ashton Jeanty, type AJ. My answer after this YouTube ad break. Even though I think Ashton Jeanty is going to be an unbelievable player for the Raiders, the answer has to be quarterback. And it has to be Geno Smith. Because I really do believe Geno Smith on this team with any running back is better than Ashton Jeanty on this team with a quarterback like Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell as the starter. So for that reason, I am going to go Geno Smith is the most important player and will make the biggest impact on the Raiders this season. But in all honesty, I don't think that's all that crazy of a statement to make. Coming up here, why the Raiders drafted Ashton Jeanty. Before I get into that, though, huge shout out to our sponsor here, PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app out there. You can click on the link down in the comments and in the description, so that way you can also get started with PrizePicks. But springtime is here, and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks lineup. Whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first-inning runs, take your picks of more or less for your shot to win 2,000 times your cash today. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. The basketball playoffs, they're heating up on PrizePicks, the best place to cash in on your favorite sports. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. If you're trying to run your game all season long, do it over on PrizePicks. And one PrizePicks thing that I like is you can mix and match player projections from different sports. Now, I know up on screen right now is my season-long Raiders picks, which I have gone more. This is 20 to potentially win $370, but you can mix and match player projections from different sports. Combine your favorite baseball players with players from basketball, hockey, esports, and much more. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Sign up today and get $50 instantly. When you play $5, you don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. I love PrizePicks. Chuggs loves PrizePicks. And if you're planning on watching any playoff games, put in a PrizePicks lineup. I think you're going to enjoy your experience a whole lot more. Let's go to why the Raiders drafted Ashton Jeanty. The first reason that Spytek said of why the Silver and Black went out and got Jeanty, Spytek called him a humble superstar. And I love that term for Jeanty because I think, honestly, it fits super flipping well. And he compared him to Barry Sanders. He was like, when we went back and we looked, and he was 30 yards short of Barry Sanders, like that's one of those things that kind of goes off in your head a little bit. But he also mentions this, and I'm so happy that he did because I knew from a source how important that Boise State Pro Day was for Spytek. And you got to remember, Spytek and the Raiders running back coach were the only GM running back coach combination at the Boise State Pro Day. But what Spytek mentions is he's like, we all knew how talented Jeanty was. We know how incredible he was, but it's the way he moved throughout the building and the way he carried himself throughout the building and the amount of respect he had throughout the building. Not every superstar is liked everywhere they go, but when they saw how loved Jeanty was in that building throughout the building, that was a humble superstar that they needed to add to this team because that's something that they're trying to bring to Las Vegas. Let's go to the next reason here of why the Raiders drafted Jeanty from Spytek. Spytek wants to play violent football. And you've heard Spytek use this term, violent football, before. I like to refer it as FU football. And Spytek wants to be physical. He wants to beat the shit out of you. And he talks about, him playing football back at his Michigan days and how important it was being able to win in the trenches and how important it was for you to allow that other team to know that you're going to try to beat the crap out of them. Jeanty is a nightmare to tackle. And, it's kind of funny. The other day here at Chat Sports, we had a trivia night, and we were talking about a name, Bucky Irving, and it was funny because Bucky Irving got mentioned by Spytek of him saying, like, Bucky used to always say, the first guy's not going to tackle me. And Jeanty also has that mindset of the first guy isn't going to tackle me. So when you add this physical, violent brand of football, and with a guy that's a nightmare to tackle, that is a good combination to have for Spytek in his mind. And then the last thing that John said was, it starts with the run game. The Raiders this offseason have shown you that they are doing everything in their power to make sure that, one, Jeanty is going to be great, but then also Geno Smith is going to be great, and they're trying to do everything they can to make sure that Geno is going to succeed. And one of the things Spytek mentions, he's like, it's important to have a good passing game, but an easy way to take pressure off of that passing game is to have a great running game, which Pete Carroll always talks about. But Spytek also mentions Baker Mayfield and how he was so good for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but then Spytek also mentioned, he was like, well, we also had a top 5 running game. And he really credits that great, reliable running game, obviously with the offensive line, of one of the big reasons why Baker Mayfield was kind of able to, take his game to the next level. The Raiders also understand the recipe on how to beat Kansas City. For a long time, I think teams were trying to find a quarterback that could compete with Patrick Mahomes. And I just don't know if that's going to happen, right? That's like you trying to find somebody one-on-one to beat Michael Jordan, somebody to take that last shot over Kobe Bryant. Like those type of guys, they don't grow on trees. So instead of trying to find another version of that player, well, why don't we try to build a team that allows that guy to stay on the sideline? And to me, the Raiders are building that team the way Philadelphia did, the way Tampa Bay did to beat Patrick Mahomes, to beat Andy Reid, to beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And I really think that they believe it starts with the ground game, taking care of the football and playing that physical FU type of brand. Coming up next here, why Spytek and why the Raiders traded for Geno Smith. And this was another thing that I was very curious to hear what Spytek had to say, and I'm sure a bunch of y'all are very curious to hear what Spytek had to say as well. Before I do, if you do not know, our Week 3 Madden Sim this Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific, the Las Vegas Raiders on the road against the Washington Commanders, and our Madden record, 1-0-1. The Commanders' Madden record, 1-1. So if you do not know, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications, and all off season, Monday, Friday, will be our Madden Sims. Obviously, this upcoming Monday is a holiday. I will not be live on that Monday. Chuggs and I and the entire Chat Sports team, we are off that day, so we will have to reschedule that Week 4 game. I just want y'all to know what we're doing on Friday. We had over 1,000 people watching us live. We had over 12,000 people watching that Madden stream. If you're looking for something to do on Friday and you enjoy Friday happy hour with the Raiders game, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you pull up. I promise you, you're going to have a good time. So let's get into why the Raiders went out and they traded for Geno Smith. This is, again, from the John Spytek interview with Ari Meirov. You can watch it on YouTube. The first reason of why Spytek thought that the Raiders went out and did it, he goes and he says, like, Geno played a lot of good football. And I also did not realize the amount of good football that Geno Smith played until I went back and I watched the tape. When you watch the tape, you realize that Geno Smith is clearly the best quarterback that the Raiders have had since 2016 Derek Carr. And I don't know if it's all that close, which, again, maybe isn't saying a lot. But the fact that Geno, people don't realize how good he is because of how bad the offensive line was for Seattle, it's going to open up some eyes, and I think it opened up Spytek's eyes. The other thing that he said was, he keeps fighting and he keeps competing. There's a lot of players that when they face adversity, they don't know how to respond. And Geno was one of those players that was like, even though multiple teams moved on from him, he kept fighting, he kept competing, and he still believed in himself. That's what the Raiders want. They want a leader that has that mentality. They want a leader that's always going to fight, that's always going to compete. And that's exactly what they're getting in Geno Smith. When your top guys are doing it, it's going to lead to the bottom of the roster guys also doing the exact same thing. He also compared them to Baker Mayfield, and it kind of talked about, their mentalities being very similar, but also how Baker, was somebody that a lot of people said, oh, that guy's not good anymore. But what did Baker do? He worked and he continued to work, and he showed that he was, tough as nails. Geno's kind of got that tough as nails mentality, and I almost find it funny because I just think that people that don't like Geno Smith that are Raiders fans are still kind of just hung up on Derek Carr, and maybe that's an unfair thing to say, but I don't know how you look at Geno Smith and you hear what Geno Smith has to say, and you know his story, and you don't go, that's a guy that I want to root for, because Geno Smith is the most Raider quarterback that we've had in a long time. He is the most Raider quarterback that I can remember, and I don't even know how long. And that type of mentality, you can compare it to Baker Mayfield, a quarterback that's had a lot of success with John Spytek, and I think that similarity was why Spytek also was probably like, all right, I'll sign off on that trade. Another thing about Geno that Spytek loves is that he can challenge any place on the field, and Spytek mentions this, and when you bring in an offensive coordinator like Chip Kelly's going to try to attack you on all aspects of the field, and he's going to try to beat you. Luckily, you have the number one explosive thrower in the NFL in Geno Smith, of balls down the field of explosive plays. Geno legitimately can throw the ball any place, and he can do it very accurately, and when you combine that with Chip Kelly, that is a recipe for success. And then the final reason, and this is very important, Geno gives you a chance to win every week. The Raiders haven't had a quarterback that gives you a legitimate chance to win every single week since Derek Carr. And I do think that Geno Smith is a better quarterback than Derek Carr. I think Geno is a upgrade over what DC is and what DC was. Again, you're going to split hairs wherever you go, but I think when you just consider the fact of the type of QB and the type of leader that Geno Smith's going to be, and you marry that to a Tom Brady, Pete Carroll, John Spytek, and you marry that to a Chip Kelly, Patrick Graham, and what this Raiders team is trying to accomplish, it makes sense why they went out and drafted Jeanty. It makes sense why they went out and traded for Geno Smith. And it makes sense why the Raiders went out and hired John Spytek. Appreciate all y'all tuning in to today's show. And again, I wanted to be able to illustrate the biggest takeaways of what Spytek had to say in a recent interview with Ari Meirov on the NFL Spotlight. You can go check it out on YouTube. You can also go check it out on Ari's Twitter. I believe it's My Sports Update. But I love the interview from John Spytek. I've been trying to get in contact with you. If you ever want to do an interview here on the Raiders Report, I promise you this. More people will watch this than your interview with Ari. That I can guarantee. All right, y'all. Who's going to end up winning the NBA Finals? If you think it's going to be the Thunder, Timberwolves, Pacers, or Knicks, this is how I am going to end today's live show. Unless we get some more questions, which I do think actually I see a few questions that we did just get. Out of all those teams, I'm hoping it's the Knicks. If you told me to put my money where my mouth is, I'm going to go with the Thunder.
Yeah.
I think I said this before. I thought the winner of Thunder Nuggets
I'd love to see the odds on it because I do wonder, like, yes, the Thunder are my thought of like, oh, this is the best team, but also they're the only one of the teams that, took 7 games. Now they were playing the Nuggets, who are another really good team, but I don't know.
I can't.
The Timberwolves handled the Lakers so well with LeBron and Luka that it does make me think, like, are the Timberwolves being slept on more in this series?
I think I said it on this show, but I heard a stat that was like over the past 2.5 months, the Wolves and the Thunder are the two most winning teams in the NBA, which it's important. And I mean, the Wolves are playing great ball right now, but I also go, well, the Warriors beat the Timberwolves in game 1 with Curry. There's a part of me that wonders if Curry's healthy, I wonder if the Warriors win that series, right?
Yeah.
Let's also face it, the Lakers, I don't really think played all that well. It's also, how important is winning in the NBA in the regular season? Like, I don't really know.
Giuseppe, it's not because I'm a Rockets fan. It might be because my brother-in-law is a Timberwolves fan that I kind of want them to win.
I don't think I've ever met a Timberwolves fan.
Well,
though that was the team my dad also rooted for.
He's from Minnesota, so he's a huge Timberwolves, Vikings, Twins guy.
When Kevin Garnett and his name was Wally Szczerbiak.
Yeah?
My dad loved Wally Szczerbiak. So when I had a basketball hoop in my living room, like one of those little ones you had with like a rubber ball, and my dad and I used to always play one-on-one in like this like living room area that we had. He was always the Timberwolves, and he was always Wally Szczerbiak and Kevin Garnett. Yeah, Richie was a big Wolves fan back in the day.
Caleb,
sorry. Dallas meetup this year after your wedding, of course. I mean, if you guys are down to coordinate something, I said Mount Raider more the other day was like, we should do a party and get everybody together. I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. I am already very overwhelmed with the wedding and with, my honeymoon. And on top of, I stay pretty busy at work. I mean this, if there are Raiders fans that want to get together in Dallas, and if people, like if Caleb, if you were like, hey, I'll find the restaurant, I'll set the meeting time. Mitch, all you have to do is just tell people where it is, when it's at, and that you'll be there. Like, that's what I need. I don't want to have to plan another thing because I don't like to half-ass anything, and I'm going to be very transparent. I would end up half-assing it because, again, honeymoon, wedding, Raiders has to be my forefront this entire offseason, which I think everybody understands. What up, Renee? I'm getting my girl pregnant. If we go to the playoffs, can I get a Raiders?
Hell yeah.
Sounds like you're trying to give her more than just one win, baby. I mean, yeah, I guess I'm getting my girlfriend pregnant if we go to the playoffs. Does she know? Is this just a you thing? Like, I hope she knows. Because I worry that my girl pregnant turns into my ex-girl pregnant. Or maybe if this is your mindset, just my 2 cents, maybe my girl turns into my wife pregnant. I'm just saying, if you already have this mentality, you're already planning. Put a ring on it and then put a baby in it is my 2 cents. Can't control life, said a man with goals.
I would change that to put a baby in her.
What did I say?
Put a baby in it.
Yep. Yep. Do you think our offensive line is really where it needs to be? Yes and no, dude. And like I could sit up here and give you all the reasons why I'm confident in this offensive line. And to me, we have a great left tackle in Colton Miller. To me, we have really good depth at offensive guard, whether that's Jordan Meredith, whether that's Dylan Parham, whether it's one of the rookies, in Caleb Rogers or Charles Grant, though I still think Grant's more of an outside tackle. Maybe Alex Kappa steps up, Like, what if Alex Kappa turns into a Casey Hayward and he just turns out to be a much better player, he's a better fit for the offense, all those reasons. Jackson Powers-Johnson, I legitimately think will be a top 5 center by the end of the year. Then at right guard, all those things I just mentioned about offensive guard. And then at, right tackle, what if DJ Glaze takes a step better? That's a better offensive line. The concern is DJ Glaze takes a step back like Thayer Munford. The concern is Alex Kappa looks the way that he did last season, with the Bengals. JPJ doesn't take a step forward. He's as good as what he was. Colton Miller wants a brand new contract, doesn't end up getting it. He's unhappy. He's not motivated. And then at left guard, Dylan Parham loses weight, and I don't know, can't move anybody. I am hopeful in the Raiders' offensive line, but is it where it needs to be? I think yes, and I say that because I just have a lot of confidence in Spytek, and I have a lot of confidence in this regime and what they value the trenches, And I have a hard time believing for an organization that values the trenches the way that they do, that their only move would have been signing Alex Kappa. And yes, they drafted 2 offensive linemen, but they drafted them in the 3rd round. And I don't think that they anticipate either of those guys to start. And they drafted Ashton Jeanty, where if offensive line would have been in a spot where it shouldn't be, I think they go Armin Member or an offensive lineman at pick number 6 in the NFL draft. To me, this whole offseason is about, do I believe in John Spytek and Pete Carroll? That answer is yes. So I got to buy into it. So I'm hoping that it's where it needs to be. So the next time that y'all are going to see me live will be Thursday, this Thursday, normal Raiders Report live, 4 p.m. Eastern time. And then on Friday, Raiders Friday happy hour, Raiders up against the Washington Commanders. Also good news, 7-minute quarters, which maybe should have been something that I mentioned before. We had some people say, Mitch, can we make the games a little bit longer? The answer to that is yes. So we're going to go from 5-minute quarters, and we're going to go to 7-minute quarters, and that's going to be probably where we stick for the remainder of the season. So please, if you're not already, hit that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. I will still make you guys some videos tomorrow when everything happens. Again, the Raiders do practice tomorrow, and they practice on Thursday. The media will be there. The top 3 things that the nation should be looking for. Any updates on Colton Miller, Jakobi Meyers? I'm also going to be really, really looking for that update on the Chirstian Wilkins injury front. Appreciate all y'all tuning in to the Raiders Report today. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, and I'll see you guys live here Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern.